what caused you to get, become politically active and start your channel?
It's a funny one because I was doing a Master of Journalism because I hate people, and I really wanted to find a way around having to interact with them. So,
are you a Virgo?
I'm not. I'm a Cancer.
Okay. Do you feel like you're typical? Like, are you sensitive? Are you a homebody?
Oh yeah, I'm very much a homebody. I'm very introverted, which always really shocks people. I'm also one of those people too. My friends would argue I am sensitive. I would argue that I have a very thick exoskeleton. That's just all the humor and me just making jokes and just being an idiot. And then underneath that is just like a very soft underbelly.
Just like a crab, which is the animal sign. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I can be sensitive, but I think for the most part, I have like 3 levels of existence, which is happy, neutral, and angry. And everything besides the other 2 comes out as anger. Which I don't know. Maybe that's typical for an introvert. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's bad.
So yeah, tell me how you came to start your channel and when you started getting involved with the Blaze and what that process was like.
Yeah, so like I said, I was doing my master at the University of Melbourne, and the primary reason was, like I said, not solely because I don't like people and I wanted to be away from them, but I love writing and I've always loved writing. And so I thought, well, this is sort of melding together some talents that I have, which is I love researching too. My first degree, my Bachelor of Art, I majored in criminology, so that was awesome. And I thought I'd go into law because I love crime stuff and policing and whatnot. So ultimately, I started my career by posting a video about how you shouldn't compare Australia and America in terms of gun control because I maintain this, they're not comparable. And it sort of went viral overnight on Facebook and ended up with, I think, somewhere on the realm of like 800,000
Wow.
views.
How many years ago was this?
I started in 2018, so 3.
Okay. Oh, wow. So you're pretty new on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, and things kind of just sort of went from there. And I think largely the reason I did it was because Australia is very apolitical. Aussies are dope. Like they're remarkably happy-go-lucky, charming people, but they
love comedy. They
do.
They really come out for shows, and they're comedy fans. So that's pretty cool.
Well, they love to laugh. I mean, Aussies I think it's happening less and less now because I think we're being sort of shamed out of it. But Aussies are cheeky as hell. They love to laugh. I mean, actual true Aussies are genuinely hilarious. I love the sense of humor. I feel like Americans are killing it. They're squishing it in me, Aussie humor. Because Americans they either don't get it and they laugh because they're confused, which I think is so cute, or they get offended. And I go, stop being sensitive.
What is different than the Australian sense of humor versus American sense of humor?
Aussie sense of humor is very dry, very sarcastic, and also we just take the piss out of everyone and everything. And Aussies will, it's never malicious, but they will name call you and take, like I said, take the piss out of you, make fun
and just roast you. Yeah,
roast you, absolutely. And the thing I think about American comedy is it's very on the nose. It's obvious comedy. It's not nuanced for the most part. And that's not to say that there aren't nuanced comedians in the United States. Of course there are. I mean, there's plenty of comedians that I think are really lovely. Your humor is obviously, I like the shit that you post on Twitter. I'm always it makes me laugh. And I think it's funny. But for the most part, I mean, a lot of Yanks are not really like that. And when I watch, do you know dry bar comedy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I like watching their videos on YouTube, and some of their people, I'm just I can't even laugh because it's just too on the nose. Whereas I think Aussie humor is derived from British comedy or British humor, which is, again, it's more sort of subtle. And do you know Dylan Moran, the comedian Dylan Moran? He's from Ireland.
No, I don't know.
He's my favorite comedian ever, and his humor is just bizarre.
I'll check him out. I wonder if what you're thinking of, the lack of nuance, is maybe sometimes either the comic themselves is not very intelligent, or they're treating their audience like they're dumber than they are, which I find never really works out. I think it's always best to treat the audience like you think highly of them and they're smart. That way you can kind of you don't have to spell everything out. Oh no, Sydney's frozen. Sydney, you're frozen. Sydney, you're back.
Sorry. My internet just dropped, and I think it's because it's raining outside. And it's
usually it's my internet that drops. And I
Sorry.
leave, usually it's literally my internet dropping and then I disorient the guest for a good 20 seconds. I should make a super cut of that. Um,
Except
okay.
this time
Okay.
it was me.
This time it
I'm
was
so
you.
sorry.
No, it's
That's
okay.
dreadful.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's very cool to know that Australians are more dry and they're more nuanced and maybe sounds like they have sometimes a better sense of humor. And I
But
think it's
Aussie comedians are not funny. Let me just point
really
not at all.
the only
Mm-mm.
example I think I have is Hannah Gatsby. She might be even, I think she's Australian.
She is Aussie, but she's also not funny. I mean,
Yeah.
they love this guy called Carl Barron, who again, he's got these like one-liners where he was one of his jokes is he's on a flight, and a woman says, would you care for an orange juice?" And he goes, "If it needed me," like ha ha ha
Uh,
ha.
that's a better tweet than I think something I would say on stage, unless you had a long airplane bit. I don't know.
Yeah, no, these are all like one-liners. And again, Aussies like will cackle at them, but I don't think Australian comedians are funny. Please no one yell at me for saying that. They try really hard, but for the most part, it's weird. Aussies are so funny, but the comedians not so much.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Just
Um,
abusing my countrymen.
okay,
Sorry.
interesting. So okay, so you going for you wanted to be
Yeah,
a
sorry.
lawyer.
So yeah, so anyway, I'll try to shorten this. So I post this video, it goes viral overnight. And then it just sort of kicked everything off from there. And I ended up getting picked up by our version of Fox, so Sky News, which is the right wing channel in Australia. And I started commentating for them on Fridays, actually on a couple of different shows. That was really cool. So that got me like a lot of live TV
Wow,
experience.
that's
Yeah,
really cool that one video could get you hooked up like that.
kick all this stuff off. Yeah, I mean, well, you know what it is? Like I said, because of the ambivalence, there was a big gaping hole, I think, for a young female who was on the right or somewhere on the right, like I say, I oscillate between libertarian and conservative. And I think that there's just this hole for it. And so just being that I cared a lot and I was sick of the way that, I mean, I was sick of the crap that I was hearing in my university classes of these pompous liberal buttholes. And they were just so liberal and irritating, saying this nonsense about how much Donald Trump was a terrorist and this, that, and the other. And I thought, oh God, I
Based
don't want
on
any of
what?
you.
Yeah, you're like, what's
Well,
your
I mean,
source?
right. I mean, but we were, I mean, you can gauge it's university. Of course, they're all going to have the same opinions and not think independently.
Right.
And it was just frustrating. I remember I was in one class, and this tutor, it's funny because he's got Twitter and we've backed and forth, on the odd occasion because he worked for like a big outlet and was, I think, an editor in chief at one point of an outlet in Australia. But I pitched a story to him because he was a tutor that I had about, it was something I actually can't remember now, but it was about like male victims. Like I wanted to write about male victims, and I pitched it in a class in front of other students, and I said something to the effect of like, "Hey, this is my idea, blah blah." And he was like, "Yeah, what about like female victims though?" And I was like, "What about them? Like I don't understand. Like I can write about males without having to, there's enough out there about female victims. There's not that much out there about males." And he made some bloody comment about the patriarchy, and he denies that he said this, but I'm just like,
Wow.
bro. I mean, these
What
are
a
the people that
puss.
you're dealing with. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, sit on a anthill, mate. But yeah. So anyway, I basically it just took off from there, and then I got to a point where I sort of had hit the ceiling in the sense that again, Aussies don't care. I was like, I love Australia and I care so deeply about the trajectory of Australia, but ultimately, like if people are reasonably ambivalent, it's better to get ahead in a country where I can get ahead, and then maybe at some point move back and then try my luck at actually changing things somewhere
Wow.
down the line. Moved to the US, moved to DC, hated DC. Same
When
DC
did you
for a
move?
year
What
then.
year did you move to DC?
2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
June 2019.
Isn't DC just like disgusting? It feels cold and soulless, and it's like the
Yes.
energy is like really icky there. Like
Oh yeah.
every time I've gone for a protest, just 3 times, I've noticed just the energy is really, I'm like, how do people live here year round? It's so
With great
gloomy.
difficulty. With great difficulty. It's funny because I read this article that was like the biggest portion of psychopaths and alcoholics live in DC, and it doesn't shock me because they're all psychotic.
Wow.
They're
They all
lunatics.
work for the government. Yeah.
It's a beautiful city, but you're right, it is soulless, and the people. I mean, you have to be like a real specific kind of personality to move and thrive in DC. Basically, like you got to be like really prepared to like sell your soul to the
Mm-hmm.
devil
Oh, yeah.
for moving up in that world. And it's not fun. I mean, people like the first thing they ask you when they meet you is, what do you do, who do you work for, because all of their interest is predicated on how you can get them ahead if you're a
God.
good contact.
It's
I
like,
mean, and that's
yeah, it's like LA for politics. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yes. Oh, that's actually a great way of putting it. Yes, precisely. And it's just not, it's not it. So here I am. I moved to Texas and I was like, well, you know, so fun fact, actually, when I was in DC, the last apartment that I lived in, my landlords work on the Biden campaign. They're like quite high up there in the Biden campaign. So that was an interesting thing in 2020 before I moved to have conversations with them. Well, my
Wow.
housemate predominantly would talk to them about what they thought about everything. Goes to show you never know who is going to be your landlord in places like Washington, D.C. Then I moved to Texas. Here I am just floating around doing my thing, enjoying the rain and the oppressive heat. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And so when did you start going on Blaze TV? And yeah, mostly it's is it Elijah's show? And I've seen you on
News and Why.
News and
Yeah, on
Why.
Chad's. Yeah, and Chad's once. And
Chad is
Stu.
fun.
Actually, all of them at this point, I think I've been on many of them. All the ones that are in studio, in the very least. So News and Why It Matters, Stu Bergier's show, Elijah's show, and Chad Payther's show as well. And
Yeah.
I guess they just invite me because I'm nearby and I'm not a moron. Maybe I am a moron.
No, you're very smart, Sydney. And you're easy to look at, so that always helps.
You saying I'm pretty?
In that
Lady.
order, though. Smart first, close by, and pretty.